Hey everybody, it is Brian Von VA, your favorite narrator and voice actor from this part of Ohio. How is everybody doing? Today we're going to be exploring a concept about the coolest, unique abilities that a DM may have given your character. Now, if you have a unique ability that your DM gave you, might as well put it in the comments below because we definitely want to know about it, especially if it's really super creative, because honestly, there's a lot of ideas out there and we want to explore them all. So, with that said, let's dive right into what is the coolest unique ability a DM ever gave your character. So I was in a gladiatorial arena fighting people when they send out someone unique, a drow eldritch knight fighter named Virgil. After a short one-sided battle, Virgil cut off my right arm, but let me live. After the battle, I bought a prosthetic or cybernetic arm from a local blacksmith for 75 GP. Gold pieces, that is. Now I have modified it to have a panel on top for storage of thieves' tools, a device in my wrist that can shoot out a small dagger attached to a wire, or I could attach a grappling hook. And I do extra unarmed strike damage, on account of having a metal arm. Also, I'm in debt now. This sounds suspiciously like DMC4 or DMC5, but either way, that is really cool. And it'd be even cooler if your character's name is Nero by chance. We did a campaign based on the anime Log Horizon, about hundreds of thousands of gamers trapped inside an MMO. One of the plot points in the series is that people would develop overskills, personalized abilities created by using abilities in ways not originally supported by the game. So, at the beginning of the game, the DM asked us to give a rough idea of what type of ability we would want, and then they'd create the details. My request was simple. I'm a summoner. My subclass is Dollmaker. Have fun. So, halfway through the campaign, during one of the between mission downtimes, I suddenly came down with inspiration and crafted a masterwork doll, kind of like a Dwarf Fortress-esque possessed mood. Later in the adventure, I'm beaten up and nearly killed by my brother's former friends when suddenly there's an evil cackling as my doll manifests and fills the halls with darkness, helping me to escape. Melaine, as I called her, was possessed by the restless spirit of one of the 6 Alv princesses that caused the first apocalypse in the series lore, and joined us as our party's minion, claiming to be evil, but usually just an edgy goth. Why not? My overskill ability allowed me to summon her as an ally in battle for a few rounds once per adventure, and she did a pretty hefty amount of damage. At the end of the campaign, she saved us once more with the last of her power, then moved on to the afterlife, finally able to rest in peace, unlike Chucky, who we had to throw in a volcano. My goblin barbarian was formerly the minion of an evil wizard. After being fed up with forced servitude, he turns on his master. After that moment, he discovered a deeply ingrained hatred for almost all magic users. Thus, he took the name Wand Snapper, or Snapper for short. To reflect this unique backstory, my DM gave Snapper the ability to sunder magical objects by potentially breaking them in half and destroying the magic that enchanted them. Thanks to the DM, Wand Snapper wasn't just a name, it was a threat. Or, in this case, a promise. I was allowed to DDoS someone's brain once a day if I succeeded in grappling them. Yes, but did you DDoS their brain with sending? That's the real question. Dun 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 dun. So this one for me is my Ravnica Magic the Gathering setting game. We were traveling in Golgari territory to take on an ancient mummy lich hybrid, Svogthir, the ancient leader of one of the 10 guilds of Ravnica. My character, Alpha, had the most beef with them since she actually stole from him, and he was not happy about it. Tried to kill her with what she stole, it being his phylactery, and she took that personally. That's on top of him being a part of trying to destroy the chamber of the Guild Pact, the main meeting grounds for the guilds, with a dark steel colossus. Just a massive robotic titan that acted as a dungeon. Oh, that sounds fun. He enacted this along with Orzhov, money-worshipping clergy people, members, Tessia, Kea, and Alpha's original self that was now a ghost leading the plan. That's a whole other story. So she had plenty of justification leading an Azorius police squad down to take him on. Now, enough explaining the setup. Leading up to getting to his tomb, an encounter with Simic, mad genetic scientist, illegally disposed waste, we ended up having to fight off some plant-looking slime beasts that copied whatever they saw. Alpha was the only one bit by one and failed their constitution save. And with it being given plant-flavored vampire skills. Ooh, fun. All the staples of at-will spells, bite regeneration, able to charm humanoids non-magically, once-a-day legendary resistance, mist transformation on hitting 0. But being plant-based, a lot of the downsides were gone outside of needing blood every day. The newest con was also needing an hour of daylight as well to not go slowly mad. Being underground for days, possibly weeks, did make all that a problem if I didn't have the daylight spell. We always agreed that the spell does shine as real daylight since it's literally in the spell. Big ball drop for Wizards of the Coast, but moving on. As the time went on, basically having boss-level skills at the cost of needing to manage daylight necessities and fresh humanoid blood on the daily, it did provide my super versatile support role to be even more versatile and hard to kill. She even found out if she killed someone with her bite and revived them after charming them, she could make them her thralls. She got herself an accidental goblin girlfriend with that. Aw, how cute! But as we adventured and made more and more important enemies, including her old boss Frankie Peanuts, a Loxodon Orzhov leader, we discovered more and more flaws with this amount of power. The old coot actually threw money around to find everyone's weakness in the party. Alpha's being something she didn't even know about. Apparently, there was a sleeper agent 3-word phrase that turned my character against the party. As we were on a garden floor climbing Frankie's tower trying to arrest him, he began to speak in a weird pattern working in the sleeper agent phrase, myself playing my character against everyone when everything clicked. DM talked to me beforehand and I was game for the twist without knowing context. With him having bought more of those plant slime creatures, all copying Alpha. Being the biggest support on the party, as well as having a lot of charm magic, it was almost a TPK. Our rogue blood hunter Volley being the saving grace to take me down as fast as possible, and even traveling planes to Ixalan, the land of pirates, vampire conquistadors, and giant dinosaurs, we learned all the more about her infection. The whole reason we traveled to Ixalan was to obtain an ancient source of magic to purge a plague spreading on Ravinka, the Phyrexian threat. The Phyrexians being a plagued race wishing to transform all organic life into living machine hybrids. Sounds like the Reapers to me. But as we explored why, when arriving to Ixalan, Alpha had become a dryad of sorts, it turned out the more she tried to explore her plant-like nature, the less she was actually part of the plant. At first meeting other dryads living with merfolk spoke of how her magic was wrong somehow, her experimenting with her plant-like skills unlocking a second voice in her head. They mentioned another similar to Alpha and recommended we search them out. Making connection with the other foreign dryad to Ixalan, Ren and Six, she brought us to a magical dryad library with a tree who wished to speak with Alpha. When making connection with her through Alpha's sending skills, their minds touched, intriguing the living tree. Meeting them in person, there was a connection made into her deepest self, the other part of her that lived in her body and soul. And from that, it was pointed out that the Phyrexian plague of the Simic having messed with the virus with plant-like flair. With that revelation, we had two things we needed to do. 1. Reincarnate Alpha to purge her of her infestation, and 2. Do the same for Alpha's girlfriend at home when they got back. If we did not, the risk of the plague spreading was always going to be a risk, and Ren and Six's forces would not stop chasing us to make sure it didn't happen. It was a sad moment to lose such power, but a necessary sacrifice for multiple reasons. Also, losing the voice that had followed her and would speak to her and other forces on the plane was a touching scene. The budding of an existence who knew not of its purpose being so removed from the original Phyxian horde. My character, Mantaruk Singlehide, is a Minotaur wrestler who was accused of cheating during his coming-of-age ceremony by bringing a knife with him during the trial, where he needed to use only his strength and horns. While these claims were quickly proven false due to the lack of evidence, Mantaruk wished to put all doubts to rest, appealing to his tribe's god to remove his ability to use weapons of any kind. The god answered his honor and commitment and made it so that any weapons he holds will instantly combust or melt away. However, impressed by the Minotaur's resolve, he also made it a blessing by allowing Mantaruk to effectively turn his hands to metal. In this way, Mantaruk would be able to catch the blades of his enemy's weapons in his hands and have them melt away into molten metal, or erupt into flames in an instant. DC 15 con save, it wasn't a guaranteed thing to happen. The first time I revealed this to the party was during a tavern brawl where someone tried to shank Mantaruk with a broken bottle. Ooh, good luck with that even without the iron fists. Mantaruk allowed the bottle to hit him, but then grabbed the wrist of the victim in place, turning his other hand into metal and grasping the bottle. The bottle began to melt into molten glass and embedded itself into the victim's hands. It was a brutal but awesome ability, but not even the only one Mantaruk had. Mantaruk fights not as a monk, but as a wrestler. He excels at subduing and locking down single, dangerous enemies with pins and grapples, while allowing his allies to work unhindered. A bruiser-type character, per se, and like any good wrestler, he had his own signature wrestling move at higher levels. Please tell me that he also got a wrestling, persona, because that would be so funny. Once per short rest, after a successful grappled check, Mantaruk could lift a large or smaller enemy over his head, jumping up and performing a spine buster centered on his horns. Ooh, impaling the victim for 2d6 plus 5 piercing, and between 2d6 plus 5 to 4d6 plus 5 bludgeoning, depending on the opponent's size. The heavier, the better, and a saving throw DC 15 con to avoid being paralyzed for the next minute. This dealt even more damage if I had my final unique ability activated, which the DM didn't give me, but rather the party's artificer. Elemental Horns. Oh yeah. The party's artificer saw my character's weakness was fighting creatures with physical, non-magical resistances. Simply put, my attacks weren't considered magical. As such, he crafted a pair of elemental horn bands, requires attunement, for Mantaruk's horns. They essentially allowed him to cast elemental weapon on his weapons on his horns, once per long rest, increasing Mantaruk's horn damage by 2d4 element damage as long as he maintained concentration, which was rather easy considering I had 20 in con. Since I put my character at a huge disadvantage by basically going full unarmed build without being a monk, the DM worked with me to create a number of things to allow me to measure with the rest of the party. It was by far the most unique character I have played thus far, and I actually love the idea of elemental horns, but I'm kind of imagining if anyone's ever watched Dragon Ball Z, Frieza in his second form when he's impaling Krillin. That's not a spoiler, it's been out for years and years and years. Just watch that scene, and I can just picture a Mantaruk doing that to a little goblin, oh, do-do-do-do-do-do-do, just bouncing him back and forth on his horns, giddy up, donkey, giddy up, and then just flings him off, and it's oh yeah, that was, I was attuned to fire at that point, so now the goblin's also bleeding out on the ground and on fire. I actually really love this character concept to pieces. Hey everybody, Brian Von VA here checking in after the vid. Make sure to leave a like, subscribe, and to ring that bell to get notified whenever we post or go live. make sure to put a story of your very own down in the comments below. We do read the comments, and if you're not comfy going down there, you can do this on our subreddit r/MrRipper. If you want to come say hi to me, I usually stream on Twitch. You can find all my socials on my website in the description, brianvonva.com. I'm a voice actor, so you can also say hi and stop by and hear me do some wacky, zany voices too. That being said, I try to end things on a positive note. Today's no different. Cool, unique abilities. Anything can be something cool if you put your mind to it. Even the most mundane things of being so short that nobody notices you. That's sort of a Hobbit quality in Lord of the Rings. But I'm just saying anything is unique and cool. Like Mantaruk. I actually find Mantaruk very interesting, and I want to hear more stories about him. So, if you're out there listening, tell me more. But that said, I want to hear what you guys actually consider cool or unique. Something different, something interesting. Make it something wild and crazy. You could make a bard that literally has a special ability to not charm everyone with his or her musical prowess, but instead piss them off at any given time, depending on how they pluck the guitar strings of their guitar. I mean, it's different, it's unique, might be a unique weapon, but either way, it's an ability that is something a little bit different. I want to know, and I want all of your imaginations to flow. All the love. Be safe, be happy. I'll see you next time. Bye for now.